Let's talk about a principle of life here. Okay, so the context is where this came from, this inspiration. There's a woman I'm getting to know who doesn't live necessarily that close to me. And I was just picturing like I could go and stay at my resort somewhere near where she lives, I think. And we could get to know each other. And then I was imagining if she then came back and stayed with me for, I don't know, however long she wants. And if I were to say to her, like I was thinking about in terms of if she did the work or if I did the work and we had something come up, like an upset, I would have to say it would be because of me triggering something unhealed within her. And yet, anyway, so me saying like, you are free to leave anytime you want, I won't hold you here, except what I'm talking about, the principle is the middle path is the right direction to move, because in a situation like that with her, it would be, she would want to know that I care enough that I want her to stay, and yet also that she has the freedom to leave whenever she wants, that there's no pressure, that there's no, she has that liberty. This is her leading her life. She's not imprisoned. No one is exerting power over her, and yet that she's still cherished, loved, valued. I mean, this is the same way with your children, and it's the same way with life. It's the middle path, right? So I was relating, so just reflecting on that one point brought up the invitation for us to talk about this in society from the standpoint of, like, let's look at the Constitution, for example, and America. Why is America the greatest country the world has ever seen? Because we have the ability to become any level of success we want. We have the freedom to create our personal destiny. So we have freedom, yet with responsibility. Both are in balance, so it's the middle path here. I mean, like, you have the freedom to vote for the person you choose, and yet you also have the responsibility to use your power and vote according to, vote for the person who is aligned with your values. So that your responsibility is to educate yourself, to choose wisely your leader, and to grill your leader. Know the candidate, right? Know the values you represent and support. Because to exercise, you have the freedom, and yet with that is the requirement to use that freedom, to exercise responsibility, right? So let's look at this. How else can we follow the middle path? I mean, ultimately, it's like being in the center, like throughout most of America, let's say, was in the center, and most people were like in the 80% block, were 40% to the left in the minus direction, shall we say, and 40% were in the positive direction. And yet that was, so 80% were in the center. And then there were like excuse me, I forgot, it's a reverse for you. So this is the right to you, I think, and this is the left for me. This is my left hand. And this is the left. I don't know. I'm getting confused because it's reversed for the camera. Anyway, whatever it is, like 80% are in the center, and then it's just 20% that are the extreme right and 20% the extreme left. But now, since Nancy Pelosi and the time, the communist revolution of America, the attempted totalitarian takeover, then, the extreme left, I gotta do this right, so that would be, I don't know, this is the right direction for you. Anyway, the extreme left took over the, quote, Democratic Party and became the Socialist Democratic Party, which is, socialism is just a euphemism for communism. It's like the gateway drug or disease for the mental disease of communism. And so anyway, like I was in the center when I was, during my 10 years as a newspaper reporter or assistant managing editor, I was a centrist. And, that was when the media was moderately liberal. And the conservative business editor used to tell me, like, I know that you and I are the only ones who are conservative here. He thought I was conservative and everybody else thought I was liberal. And I was probably right in the middle, or maybe more liberal. But now, since the extreme left took over the Democratic Party, now it's like the last 1%, I guess left is over here for you, I think. Like the most extreme 1% subverted the whole party, except for RFK Jr. is, he had to go on the independent side because the system was rigged for tyranny. And so everything else is right of that. So it's like, so now the 99% are conservative because almost no one, other than they call themselves elites, but they're predators, and more accurately, they're parasites who think that we are theirs to exploit and manipulate. And I don't agree with that. But anyway, even in that spectrum, there's still the middle path. And so, how much of what I hear is actually misinformation, and how much of what other people believe is misinformation too. So on both sides, in other words, like this thing, the most recent thing I saw was that by 2028, 2 billion people will be dead from it. Is that true? Looks like it. Because apparently it causes, I forgot what they call it now, super cancers, or it's like people are, within weeks, they're getting like stage 4 cancer, super fast growing cancers. And anyway, and yet originally they said, they being the people who know, the truth tellers, said that, like, think of it in terms of the healthiest population would be able to last 5 years with it. And then the lowest, the weakest among us, the weakest 20% would be dead within a year. And then the next, so, and yet it's been, whatever, more than 2 years now since the bioweapon was coerced upon us, since the manipulation of Fraud 1.0. And yet, there haven't been, yes, they say 20 million people have died from it, from the shot, the bioweapon. But not everyone is turning to zombies yet, anyway. And, well, so all of these things haven't happened so far that they said would happen, the truth community. So how much of that is real? If you're an intelligent person with critical thinking, you probably know, especially after July 13th, 2024, which is the monumental turning point in human history, by the way. You probably know, if you believed in the QAnon stuff, that was just a manipulation using the weapon of hope. Because if you think President Trump is still the commander-in-chief, then you're a fool. Because he wouldn't. Now it's obvious to everyone, or should be, except how many people are manipulated still. Because he wouldn't allow them to take a shot at him and hope that they're going to miss. Anyway, they might think, whatever, but they can justify all of this by their own delusions. And yet that's just an example of the people on the right falling prey to the manipulation as well, whereas the truth is somewhere in the middle. Obviously it's unconscionable for a school to betray its responsibility to the parents and children it is meant to serve by allowing a boy to come into the girls' locker room and assault girls there because the boy feels like, no, there's nothing right about that. So that's, the extreme, the manipulation, the fraud. How many people are awaking to that every day? And the open border policy, of Biden-Harris, Harris being the border czar. And anyway, so what is your thinking about the middle path, and the need to come back to our center? And that is the biggest need right now, because in the center is peace, is harmony, is balance, is God. The center peace, I like that. The center peace. Peace, P-E-A-C-E. The peace within you is in your center, right? So we can go many different directions with this. Did you get, first of all, caught up in all of the manipulation, like Trump derangement syndrome, believing the manipulation? That's on one side, the extreme left. Or did you think that all Republicans, all Democrats are evil, and everything is a manipulation and fraud? Like anything the government says is a lie, or anything the media says is a lie? That's what I tend to think. And yet, other than the conservative media or independent media, and yet there's independent media who even Well, they don't, they think Trump sold out long ago to the deep state. So, in other words, it's important for you to use critical thinking and to do your own research and make your own decisions and not just blindly believe what you hear from either side. So will you take that to heart? Will you go back to the center? Will you look carefully before you leap and see where you're leaping? Will you find your own way, and will you work with people where you're sharing your views, your research, your findings, your calculated, intelligently researched conclusions based on all the information that you had available? Will you live and act and think responsibly? I suggest that's what's needed now. As we are coming back together, returning to our center, and taking our society back to the center. Let's do this together through OperationGreatness.com. Are you willing to do that? Will you in fact lead your own Operation Greatness chapter? That would be option 3 through OperationGreatness.com/yourpart. I believe this is imperative for every one of us to do now, to lead our own Operation Greatness chapters and bring our communities back together and reunite these United States. This is so important. I want you to go back to the beginning, watch this, and post on your social media your responses to the things I am raising here. There's so much within this for all of us to contemplate, to recognize, to take action, not just to blindly follow the noise. Instead, let's follow the truth. Will you do that? And in your post, link back to this video. And lead every one of your online friends through joining us in doing the work of coming back together, reuniting, and returning to our center. OperationGreatness.com/yourpart. Thank you very much.